Hello, it's Richard Pearse from FinextraTV, and delighted this morning to be joined by Hannah Leach. Good morning, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, great to have you on the show. We've known each other for a wee while, back in the days of Level 39 and Innovate Finance, etc. You, of course, now partner at Houghton Ventures. Where have you been? How did you get to Houghton Ventures?
I don't know how much time we have, but I've had I think the official
keep it short and punchy.
It's a squiggly career. So we've known each other a while. I've worked in kind of various corners of the tech world, both on the early stage company side, doing a lot of corporate innovation. So working in EY's fintech team, helped set up the innovation department of a big insurance company. Have tried to do my own thing. Have helped set up a data ethics consultancy around the time of GDPR. But alongside all of this, have had a really close relationship with the LSE. And I sit on the board of their entrepreneurship centre and have done for the last 2.5 years. So have been really exposed to everything that's happening in the LSE kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem, both on campus at LSE and globally within the alumni base. And through that, I got connected with my now partner, Veronica, and she had started putting forward the proposal to the university for the fund, and we met and hit it off, and here we are today, quite a few months later.
Fantastic. And so that actually leads us perfectly to who are Houghton Ventures and kind of what's the vision of the organisation.
Yeah, so we are a new London-based venture firm in formal collaboration with the LSE. So we we will invest in companies that have been founded both by students, academics and alumni of the university globally at seed stage. So we entered into that partnership agreement in Q4 of last year. We're now fundraising and basically stitching together the network of alumni of 150,000 alumni, 14,000 founders, and trying to surface the best of those and support them.
And you've got a specific focus. Tell us kind of what your basis and vision is.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We're in partnership, obviously, with the LSE, and the LSE, for those who know, they're all about social science and humanities. So we feel that companies that are being founded at LSE and by LSE founders tend to have a different way in which they're built. They integrate responsibility into their core. They might maybe consider the implications of their technology in the world in which we live, both on people and on planet. And that means that they are built and structured, and they operate in a kind of responsible, inclusive and sustainable fashion. That's our general hunch. But we wanted, as a fund, to kind of formalize that process to say, how do we actually embed that in the way that we operate? How do we embed that into the way we screen due diligence and support companies and look at the kinds of companies that we're working with? And our closest reference point has been ESG.
Right.
So we've, alongside the fund, set up an initiative all around ESG and venture.
Okay, perfect. So let's drill down into that a bit more. ESG, does that mean you're investing in, the data tech firms that are actually building ESG solutions, or does it mean, the ESG in its sort of broader sense, you're talking about downstream areas that, where's the focus on ESG?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, because I think ESG there's a lot of confusion or different interpretations of what it means. And I think when you apply it to venture, there are 1,000,001 interpretations because it's so new. So I think if you look at, particularly in the US, when people say we're an ESG fund, they really mean they invest in sustainability and climate tech, and they see that as a very thematic sector focus. For us, we've adopted a different approach. We don't see it as being thematic. We just see it applying to how you invest and how you support those companies. So every fund should be an ESG fund. Every fund should operate in a responsible, sustainable and inclusive way. And that should apply to companies too. So if you're building a purpose-driven edtech platform in Kenya, or if you're building a B2B SaaS company in San Francisco, you should be building your products in the right way. You should be building your teams in the right way. You should be taking care of your environmental footprint. You should have strong governance practices. They should just apply to any business, because that should be the foundation of building a strong, resilient business.
Indeed. Okay, so that's really cool, and I sort of go more towards sustainable investing as the basket for that, rather than the ESG, which, as you say, can get confusion. But it's semantics. The point is that you're aiming at the bigger picture. So where are you going to be sort of targeting? Are you VC? So you're kind of early stage, Series A, Series B. Where are you kind of targeting? What kind of fund size?
So it's seed stage companies. We would possibly do a bit of Series A too. We're a generalist fund, so we'll look at anything in any sector. Obviously, our main criteria is that it has to be founded by an LSE alum or have an LSE alum on the C-suite, so that reduces the fund size somewhat. And we have a global mandate, so we'll look at anything anywhere. I mean, if you look at historically companies that have come out of the LSE alumni base, they tend to be in a few major sectors. So fintech is one. That would be something, given how many finance folks that come out of the LSE. E-commerce is really another big one. Increasing amounts in the future of work and health, and then very kind of data-centric businesses who are looking at new ways to handle data, looking at the data ethics side of things. So a lot of interest in that space too.
And do you, for people that don't understand, perhaps, how these VC funds operate, are you doing it in the sort of traditional manner of, filtering and talking and all that sort of stuff, and or are you going to use any sort of, new whizzy technology to help you, sort your list out and so forth?
So there's a big database expert, and one of the other partners in the fund is a chap you will know, Adam French, the co-founder of Scalable Capital. He's been building out our database, because obviously there's a whole universe of companies that are being founded by LSE alums. I think there are, I'm going to not say the stat because I'm probably going to get it wrong. But we have to have a way to filter that and to screen them, and also to identify that, them existing in the first place. But I think what's important for us, like a lot of venture funds would probably say, this is actually building a relationship with the founder. So for us, because of the alumni base, we get to access founders at the word go. When they're thinking about it, when the idea is percolating through their head, we meet them. We can build out a relationship over 3, 6, 12 months, help them secure some pre-seed funding. And then by the time that they're doing their seed round, we know them, we know the way they work, we know the way they build and iterate and pivot, handle challenges, and they know us. So we're known entities to each other. And at that point, when they're raising, that conversation becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, got it. And it's interesting, isn't it, that the whole space you're talking about, one of the things it struggles with is, can we see the material impact of whatever it is, the supply chain work or the agricultural work or whatever? How do you actually, evidence that the firms that you're working with are delivering the impact in the way that you want them to do it, other than just saying, how's it going, guys, and is it on plan?
So we differentiate between impact and ESG. So for us, impact is all around the outcomes that are being driven through your product or service. And ESG is all around the way that you're operating, so your internal processes, practices, and principles by which you're growing. We are less focused on looking for positive impacts. Not to say that we won't invest in that, but that's not a core criteria for us. At the moment, we don't have the internal impact reporting frameworks because it isn't a focus for us. For us, we have the framework around the ESG elements, which we've broken down into 8 kind of core components, of which there are a number of sub-issues. And the way we'll do that is, when we invest in a company and onboard them, we'll identify their priority areas, the blind spots, and then help them set KPIs and metrics that we'll then review on a 6-month and an annual basis. Right. It's hard. Obviously, when you talk about ESG, there's often the conversation leans towards data and how it can be quantitative. I think the conversation at venture and early stage is very different. There isn't data a lot of the time, and it's more about working with the founders and talking to them about how they are approaching the business. Have they thought about the adverse impacts? What is their attitude towards diversity and inclusion? And actually, a lot of it is more qualitative. So I think you need to marry the two, and not to say that you can't report off qualitative pieces, but it is somewhat harder.
Yeah. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. And this is perfection is the enemy of the good, isn't it? And I think as long as you're working on all those intents. So what's the timeline? When can people sort of knock on your door and get involved?
Not they can knock on our door now.
Oh,
we're
okay.
not deploying, but we love to, meet folks in the LSE alumni base who are interested. Always talking to founders if we can support them with anything else. That's one of our main aims. We don't just exist to support companies within our future portfolio, but also to support the ecosystem as a whole and connecting the dots and trying to provide value. So our door is always open.
And in terms of, Level 39 was fantastic because it had that great sort of, ecosystem, as you just referred to, of events and, parties and coffee and chats and, and office mentors, etc. What sort of, what stuff will be going around you? Is it all LSE related, I assume?
So there's the two hats. So one is the Houghton Ventures and the other is Venture ESG. So the Venture ESG community of now 165 funds, about 50 LPs, some academics. We do bi-monthly get-togethers online. We've got our first in-person next week, which is very exciting. We have working groups, we have deep dive sessions and insight sessions. So a lot of that is community based, and we also connect members for one-on-one chats. So that has got a whole stream of events. Houghton Ventures, we haven't yet got things in motion on the event side, I guess, given COVID, but the aim will be to bring people together, at least once a month, and to also leverage what's happening within the school. I mean, the school puts on such a great series of events with leading academics, finance folks, etc. So we're keen to plug into that and everything that's happening on the student side, which is, student societies are so active compared to when I was there. So I think it's probably a slight watch this space, as opposed to us having I wish we had a fully fledged schedule, but sadly.
I was only fishing really just to make sure that I'm on the invite list. Clearly, that's all it was.
Number one.
I haven't been out for a while, so it's I have to get a bit desperate for the invites these days. Listen, Hannah, where can people get in touch with you?
So on our website we have a contact form, and LinkedIn is always the perfect place for me, as long as you write a little note of why you want to connect.
That'll be the best thing. Well, look, thanks for the update. I want to start next time we talk to hear about some of the progress and successes. But for now, lovely. Thanks for talking.
Thank you for having me.